Disclaimer, the title of the video is a small exaggeration to bring in clicks, because I actually think the greatest JRPG party of all time is the Like a Dragon gang. However, the title is still not very far away from the truth. In the past I've talked about how I don't like Persona 4 and how Persona 5 fell off for me extremely hard. However, for all the love I don't give to those games, it is overcompensated with how much I adore Persona 3. It's a very special game for me. I could spend hours talking about the story, the themes, the music, the atmosphere. Let's ignore the gameplay of Fest for now. But something that really stuck with me ever since I first played it in 2017 were the characters. I am not exaggerating when I say that the Specialized Extracurricular Execution Squad are one of the greatest JRPG parties of all time. I love all these characters in a way I can't describe. But I sure as hell can try. Not too long ago, I made a video on the worst RPG party members of all time, and in the end I put the entirety of the Phantom Thieves, except for Ryuji. And even with the backlash that I got, I do not regret what I said there in the slide list. But you know, I think it's also fair that I turn it around for the Persona series. I was planning to do a video on my favorite RPG parties of all time, and I might still do that someday in the future. But for now, I want to focus on one specific group of people. Cs. I can give you a list of reasons on why I like them so much. They're unique, they're special, they're believable. But the one reason as to why I like them so much is because of how they subvert my expectations. You see, I played Persona 3 a few months after I played Persona 5. And as you know, I was obsessed with the latter. As the game with the number 5 in the title, I thought this was naturally the pinnacle of storytelling and characters in the franchise. Ha! What an idiot. When I eventually moved to Persona 3, I instantly set up certain expectations on each Cs member. You know, Junpei is gonna be the Ryuji of the game, Yukari is the An, Mitsuru the Makoto, Koromaru the Morgana, and so on and so on. But as I continued playing through the game, said expectations were completely turned around. For each month that passed, new characters will join the mix, but all of them will do something that stuck with me by the end. You see, the thing I like about Cs the most is how different they are as a group of friends, but also how they work as individual people. Throughout the years, I've seen them get criticized for a number of reasons. The most common being, they don't feel like a group of friends. I kinda get where people are coming from, but I think that criticism is way overblown. Yeah, Cs doesn't start as super buddies right away, but that's exactly what makes them so appealing to me. All members of Cs are put in this scenario where they're only friends because the situation called for it. These people just so happen to have a persona and now have to help and save the world. But I like this a lot actually. Not only is this a more unique scenario from other games, but also because it leaves a lot of room for them to grow individually and as friends throughout the course of the story. See, I don't mean to throw dirt at Persona 4 or 5, but in those games, I feel that many characters follow the same routine. Some new guy shows up with a problem, let's help them. Said character gives a message about the game's themes. I accept myself, I had enough of being stepped over. They awaken their persona and permanently join you. Those are good moments, sure, but that's all they are, moments. After their arc finishes, most of these characters are just there for the overall plot. I mean, they're all still part of the group, they interact and all of that, but whatever future plot points happen will be carried by the new party member or the one or two characters that actually really matter. In Persona 3, I feel that each member of Cs is given enough time to make them interesting the whole way through. Their introductions are rarely seen as a big deal. I find it funny how Junpei's introduction to Cs is Akihiko literally saying, "Yo, I found him crying in a store. Anyway, he's a Persona user and will be living with us now." The point is, these characters' relevancy goes beyond their introduction, goes even beyond their arcs, and most importantly, I love that each and every single one of them is an entity capable of thinking and acting for themselves. In different points of the story, you're given glimpses of what they're up to. Yukari has an arc where she's always suspicious of Mitsuru, and does her own research to force the latter to reveal an incident that happened over 10 years ago. On other days, you get shown that Akihiko has been trying to get this guy to rejoin SEES. Other times, you get Junpei just wandering around. It doesn't seem like a big deal, but that's an integral part of his character. For me, these events are a reminder that these characters aren't just your party members. They're people with their own reasons to join, their own feelings, pasts, and struggles. The best part about this is that for the most part, they don't revolve their entire existence around the main character. This is honestly kind of a pet peeve for me. I hate in games when the whole cast circle jerks around the main character right from the get-go for no reason at all. And while there is some of that in this game, which I'll get to later, I don't think that at any point it crosses the line where SEES just becomes your glorified cheerleaders. They don't over-rely on you. The best example of that? How each member evolves their own persona with their own merits. Honestly, I don't really like how in future games they relegated this to the social links. I'm not saying they're bad by any means, there's some really good ones out there. Kanji. But I think it kinda sucks that they're looking at characters' development behind optional content, cause it leaves ambiguous if they actually grew up in their own games. Even in spin-offs such as 4 Arena or 5 Strikers, the cast still has their original personas, so like, what happened to their development? Are they still the same as they were at the beginning? In 3, I grew more attached to these characters because I was constantly shown their growth. Akihiko steals his resolve after losing someone important to him. Yukari finds a new purpose after finding the truth about her father's actions. Other characters struggle a bit more, such as Ken and Mitsuru, but with the help of others who are not the main character, they find a renewed strength to keep going. That is so amazing! And you know what's even cooler about SEES? Each and every single character carries the themes of Persona 3 incredibly well. As you all know, this is a game all about death and loss. It's something that you see everywhere, from people losing their lives and the antagonists being nihilistic. But this isn't a game about, oh, life is not worth it because we're all gonna die in the end. No, it's a game that acknowledges that death is inevitable, but that's exactly why we have to keep going and do the most we can with our lives. And this message is flawlessly delivered through the characters. All of them experience death in some way or another, before the events of the game, during the events of the game, or in some cases, both. But what is so fascinating is how each member of SEES deals differently with it. Akihiko copes with his experiences with death by constantly training to make up for his own weaknesses. Shinji takes drugs to suppress his own powers. Aigis loses all will to live and prefers to become a soulless machine once again after losing the most important person to her. Mitsuru is one of the most memorable instances, because she's always depicted as this unbreakable woman with an iron will, but the moment she loses someone, she shuts herself off from the rest of the world. If it hadn't been for Yukari's intervention, then she would have simply continued on without any self-confidence. And since I just mentioned that scene, I just wanna ask, how come there's still people who say SEES doesn't feel like a real group of friends? Like, why? Is it because they're not best buddies right away? Is it because they're not together in every single scene? Or is it because they don't slurp you off at every chance they get? When I see that criticism, it makes me wonder if I even play the same game. When I see SEES, I see a bunch of teenagers who grow closer as the game progresses. I see teenagers who laugh together, struggle together, banter with each other, look out for one another, and if someone ever does something wrong, they'll be called out for that. Is that seen as a bad thing for some people? I don't know about you, but I think that a good friend will call you out on your wrongs instead of agreeing with you in every single thing. You know, when I played Persona 4, I really wish someone had called out Josuke and Rise for their comments against Kanji. When I played Persona 5, I despise how nobody points out how hypocrite Morgana is for leaving the Phantom Thieves after being told Futaba was more useful than him. That's a fact, by the way. Whereas in Persona 3, I can recall Mitsuru constantly telling Akihiko to not train while he's recovering from his injuries. I perfectly remember Akihiko punching Shinji for using drugs that are killing him, or Junpei for lashing out at Yukari for joking in one of the most tense moments in the game. Hell, even in the FMC route, which I've never played, I am aware Junpei is called out for making a comment about Kotone's gender. When it comes to SEES, I already thought they were a believable group of friends in the original. But even if there was still some doubt in someone's mind, I am glad that Reload added even more scenes with the members. No fancy? No problem! Here are some new events you can enjoy with Junpei, Akihiko, Ken, Shinji and Koromaru, that's great! Also, how can people say they don't feel like a real group of friends when they all have very defined dynamics? I mean, there's so many! Yukari feels a connection to the MC because they also lost their parents 10 years ago. At the same time, Yukari is constantly suspicious of Mitsuru but eventually become best friends. Mitsuru and Akihiko share a lot of mutual respect as the third graders of the group, and those two, together with Shinji, share a rough past that is constantly brought up throughout the story. Shinji has a dynamic with Koromaru where he never puts up a tough guy act when he is present. Koromaru even has something with Aigis in which she is kind of his personal translator. There's a deep connection between Aigis and the MC. Junpei sometimes tries to act like an older brother to Ken, and Ken goes back again to Shinji due to a certain accident. I can keep doing this all day. But you know, since I already told you what I like so much about Cs in general, why don't I also tell you what I love about each member individually? The MC, also known as Makoto Yuki by some. There's not much to say here. He's a silent protagonist, not my favorite trope, but I do have some bias for this one. You see, what I like about him is that he is so damn edgy. I mean, just look at his design, with that blue emo hair covering one eye, his lanky build and how depressed he looks, listening to music all the time, and he even carries a sword. Literally the only thing he's missing is a catchphrase such as, "Psh, nothing personal, kid." Also, have you seen his responses to other characters? He can potentially be the biggest asshole you've ever met, and that is so damn funny. Any way I look at it, Makoto Yuki is a product of his era, a full edgelord from the 2000s. Normally, I will hate someone like that, but I don't know, I think that makes him endearing in a funny way. And at the end of the day, he's still the protagonist, so beyond all that cold and rough exterior, he's still a nice and caring person deep inside. So long as he doesn't tell a little girl it's her fault her parents are getting a divorce, what the hell is up with that? And you know what else? Even though he's another silent protagonist that is perfect at everything he does, I am not too bothered by him, mostly because the other characters are perfectly capable of supporting themselves as well as others. There is some circle jerking of him at times, but at no point did I ever feel it got annoying. Yukari Takeba. Debatably the most complicated but also misunderstood character in the whole game. At first glance, she just looks like a generic anime girl. She's one of the most popular girls at school due to her looks and cheerful personality. But behind all of that lies a lonely girl with a lot of insecurities, many flaws, and a sharp tongue.
Ace detective? More like stupid.
These aspects of her aren't unfounded though, as all of this is explained through her past and relationship with her parents. She's afraid to open up to other people, but that doesn't mean she's incapable of making genuine connections. Ever since I first played Fez, I thought Yukari was an amazing character. Which is funny because at the same time, I see she gets a lot of hate very often, with the most common criticism being that she's a bad character, and I'm like, wait, how? Is it because of her attitude? I mean, given what she's been through and what happens to her in the story, I think that's a reasonable way for a teenager to react to said things. So what is it? Is it because you tried to hug her in her social link after she was harassed and she got mad at you? Because if so... Ah, ja 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 ja! El pendejo! El pendejo! Someone might bring up, oh, but she abuses Junpei all the time. I mean, I get where you're coming from, but I wouldn't call it abuse. For me, that's just banter. Also, don't forget, Junpei also banters and teases Yukari all the time too. Oh, but she calls Junpei stupid. Yeah, and did you know how many times my friends and I have called each other pendejo? It's not uncommon, dude. Then there's the way she acts in the answer, in how she almost doomed all of mankind because of her selfish desires. Yeah, what she did was wrong, but let me ask you something. If you had the opportunity to save the most important person in the world to you, regardless of the risk, would you do it? I'm not defending Yukari's actions in the answer. I'm not saying you have to love her because of these things. But calling her a bad character is just plain wrong. The entire point is that she is a person with flaws, but it's through her own will and support of her friends that she grows. Junpei Iori, the ace detective. Easily one of the coolest character developments you'll see in your life. Junpei is incredible because he starts out as a nobody loser. He's friendly and caring, sure, but he's also reckless, immature, and constantly craves for praise. It's because of this that he often makes poor decisions and is even prone to get mad at the protagonist due to his special power and natural talent. However, Junpei goes through a hell of a character arc. He becomes capable of accepting his mistakes, becomes more open, is able to face harsh realities. He matures so much through the course of the game. His development is so incredible that during the answer, he actually becomes the voice of reason of the group. That's like the last thing you will have expected from him. He is the man. Akihiko Sanada. He's a character that seems so straightforward at first. He's constantly talking about training, working out, training, protein, working out, protein. And yeah, I'm not gonna lie, there are times in which his conversations about that can be a bit annoying. However, his obsession with becoming stronger also comes from a traumatic event from his past. And it's cool because said determination also blinds him from seeing the bigger picture, which is something that ties in with his eventual character arc. And I also like that even though he seems to be a perfect upper class man, you know, being the captain of the boxing team and having his own club of fangirls, he's actually pretty awkward and emotional. That's pretty funny. Mitsuru Kirijo. A character I love every single aspect of, except for the overuse of Marin-Karin in the original. Calm, confident, responsible, and very intelligent, Mitsuru is basically the unofficial mother of the group, constantly insisting that they keep their grades up despite fighting shadows. And even characters like Akihiko tend to fear her at times because of how scary she can be when she's genuinely mad. But the funniest part about Mitsuru is that due to her rich upbringing, she's completely ignorant of the common people's worth. You all have seen the memes about how you literally have to become a genius just to learn that she doesn't know what a burger is. It's hilarious. But this also leads to an interesting part of her character, on how she wishes she could escape her responsibilities as the heir of the Kirijo group, but still remains here because she knows that's her duty. She's so awesome! Fuuka Yamagishi. She's the easiest character to describe. She's nice, and no, I'm not kidding, there is not much science here. Fuuka is a very straightforward character, but that's not bad by any means. She's very reserved and shy, but is also a very kind and forgiving person. As you will expect, she has moments of self-deprecation and moments where she feels useless to the group, and her arc is all about overcoming those feelings and her own shyness. Sometimes less is more, and I think Fuuka does that very well. Koromaru. He's a dog! I mean, what else can I say? He's a goddamn dog! It's amazing how Koromaru doesn't speak a single word, yet he's so damn awesome! Like, he's a dog who loved his former master so much he developed a persona to keep his will alive, and not just that! His persona Cerberus never evolves through the course of the game, and in Reload, he has 2 Thurges by default. This can only mean that Koromaru is so badass that his resolve was strong from the get-go. What the hell? I love this dog so much! Shinjiro Aragaki. What I like about this character is how he contrasts with the likes of Akihiko. Both of them went through a very traumatic event, so while the latter copes with it by constantly training and getting stronger, Shinji deals with it by setting up a tough guy act, distancing himself from others and even trying to suppress his own persona powers with drugs. But in reality, Shinji is one of the kindest people in all of Seas, proven many times through optional contents you can do. But of course, nothing elevates him further than his ultimate sacrifice in order to save Ken's life. Literally my only nitpick is that I wish Shinji had been a party member for way longer. But even then, even with the 1 month he had back in Seas, he still managed to make one hell of an impression. Ken Amada. Can I just go on and say he's one of the most overhated Megaten characters? Like, he's far away from being my favorite, but I still think a lot of people treat him unfairly, calling him stupid all the time, saying he's annoying, and putting the entire blame on him for Shinji's death, and I'm like, dude, are you all conveniently forgetting that Ken is an elementary school kid? Sure, he may try to put off a mature act all the time, but he's still a little kid. In fact, I think that aspect of him is cool, Even at his age, he already had the potential and a determination strong enough to become a Persona user. Even more impressive considering the traumatic event he went through. The poor kid basically had to give up his childhood as a way to deal with the world around him. But at the end of the day, Ken is still a nice person. Most of the hate he gets is because, oh, he's responsible for Shinji's death. And to that I want to ask people, did he stab Shinji? Did he pull the trigger? Or did he use him as a human shield? No, not at all! I mean, yeah, Ken was responsible for taking Shinji to an isolated place, and he had the full intent of killing him. But the matter of fact is, he didn't do it. Takaya was the one with the gun, and it was Shinji himself who decided to shield him from the bullet. He's the one who decided to use what little life he had left in order to save a kid, which serves as a catalyst that helps Ken develop. As I said earlier, while Ken is far away from being my favorite member of SIS, I still think he's cool and way too overhated. And at the end of them all, we have Aigis. What is there not to love about her? A story about a robot who eventually gains a human soul is amazing, and Aigis does this so well. It's so funny how endearing she is despite having no emotions at first. This actually creates some hilarious scenarios and interactions with her, as Aigis is very prone to do some strange things, such as causing awkward misunderstandings at school or even sneaking into the protagonist's room while he sleeps. She tries really hard to fit in, and that's so adorable. Actually, one of my favorite things that Reload did is making Aigis use slang followed up by, as they say. Such as, we beat them to a pulp, as they say. That was easy peasy lemon squeezy, as they say. And again, her entire arc about gaining human emotions is so damn good. From finding a purpose in life, to losing said purpose, going through an existential crisis, and eventually figuring out that pain is part of living. I love it. It's one of the best arcs in the whole game. Aigis is one of the most memorable Megaten characters. She's so good. Actually, that's how I feel about SIS in its entirety. I like all these characters so much, not just in Megaten, but in all the JRPGs I have played, seriously. It's one of my favorite parties of all time. They are all so likable, all of them matter, they have depth, there's very clear dynamics, all follow the main themes of the game but also are flawed. This is a very organic cast of characters. Literally the only way in which they could be better is if they were middle-aged guys who fight organized crime and maybe go to Hawaii from time to time. Yeah, if something like that actually exists, you can hit me with a baseball bat.
Okay.